Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, Night Without Borders. Chapter 66, From Now On, I Live Only for Myself. Author, Chen Dong. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. Qinming's head throbbed violently, as if a dull axe were repeatedly striking his skull, leaving him feeling like his head was about to shatter. His vision darkened, and the pain threatened to overwhelm him. He took a deep breath, but it did little to calm him. His feet stumbled, his emotions surged like a raging fire, burning him from within. Why did they do this to me? He whispered through the agony. He had entertained countless suspicions, but never imagined his parents would order Kui Hong to do this to him. The revelation felt like his heart was being torn apart piece by piece, causing his body to tremble uncontrollably. The pain far surpassed even the agony of having his arm broken and skull fractured by the feather-robed youth's glowing purple bamboo staff. Qinming staggered backward, fragmented memories flooding his mind. No wonder, during his third awakening, he had dipped his finger in coarse tea and written the character, abandoned, on the table. Now, he recalled more. Before the feather-robed youth found him, when he still lived in that peaceful village, he had silently written the same character, abandoned, on that fateful night. Even as the village was engulfed in a sudden inferno, as hordes of skilled warriors breached its defenses, and the air thundered with battle cries, he remained silent. Facing this life or death calamity, he watched calmly, not uttering a single word. Had I already lost the will to speak at that time? Did I sense what was coming? Was it utter despair? Perhaps also heartache and loss? Qinming stood in the desert, enduring the searing pain in his head, feeling as if he were tearing open an old wound, reliving the torment once more. He clearly saw his past self, even as the flames threatened to consume him, his expression remained unchanged. In the end, he even gazed at the horizon with a sense of relief, staring into the dark night sky, as if he had finally let go of everything. In my final moments, did I actually feel a sense of relief? I had imagined this moment before, but when it finally arrived, I was already able to face it with composure. Qinming stood in the desert, his eyes bloodshot, staring at his past self. He felt resentment, defiance, and indignation for the person he had been 2 years ago, emotions surging from the depths of his heart. Young Master Chong, what's wrong? Kui Hong asked, his voice filled with concern as he saw Qinming's distress. He moved to approach him. Don't come any closer, Qinming said in a low, strained voice. Before him stretched an endless inferno, the burning rafters having nearly crushed him. In that moment, he had cared nothing for life or death. 2 years ago, for reasons he couldn't fathom, he had let out a final sigh, as if relinquishing everything. But now, he couldn't bear to let go. Did being nearly killed by that feather-robed youth erase so many memories that I can't let go of the past? Why can't I understand why I found peace at the last moment that night 2 years ago? Qinming stood in the desert, enduring the searing pain as he struggled to recall the past. Fragmented scenes surged back, like a dense forest of spears or a cold array of swords, relentlessly attacking his mind, threatening to tear him apart. Another night. He saw many people. This must have been an earlier memory, before he encountered the feather-robed youth. Surrounded by a large crowd, he was parting ways with members of the Kui clan. Across from him stood a middle-aged couple, watching him board a bronze chariot engraved with cloud patterns. The middle-aged man remained silent, his presence radiating authority. His eyes seemed to pierce through hearts, calmly observing Qinming's departure. The woman, appearing to be in her early 30s, wore a magnificent palace gown. Her cloud-like hair was styled in an elaborate updo, secured with a golden feather hairpin that shimmered with flowing light. Her exquisite face showed no emotion as she watched Qinming's journey begin. Nearby, many vigorous elders, seemingly intimidated by the couple's aura, maintained a respectful distance, feeling uneasy if they drew too close. At that moment, Qinming couldn't resist glancing back. He saw only their retreating figures as the middle-aged couple led their entourage away. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. Though the memory was fragmented and blurry, Qinming could clearly sense the intense emotions he had felt then, as if facing a life or death separation, filled with reluctance, profound loss, and lingering resentment. Chong, are you all right? Kui Hong asked, his face etched with concern. Qinming looked at him and replied, the truth is, I'm doing quite well now. It would be even better if you hadn't reappeared. His headache had subsided somewhat. He touched his face and found tear streaks he hadn't realized were there. Annoyed, he wiped them away roughly. Such cheap sentiment has no place in my life now, he thought. The past is gone, discarded. What's there to cry about? Qinming's expression remained impassive as he said, I always wondered if I'd wronged you in some way. But now I'm certain I haven't betrayed you or the Kui clan. Yet you've come seeking me out again. What do you want? Kui Hong replied, I came here for 2 reasons, to obtain the yin-yang elixir and to discuss your situation. We've arranged a residence for you with guards to protect you, young master. There's no need for you to venture into the outside world and risk your life. You think you can decide my future with a single sentence. Qin Ming's eyes sharpened, tinged with red. He had endured so much, near-fatal injuries, covered in blood, freezing like a beggar in the snow. If the people of Twin Tree Village hadn't taken him in, he would have died long ago. Now, with a casual remark, they wanted to confine him to this remote place forever. On what grounds? Everything he had now, his strength, his skills, his very life, he had earned by risking it all in the mountains, without a single resource from the Kui clan. Kui Hong fell silent, guilt and reluctance surging within him again. But this was his mission, how could he return without completing it? After a long pause, he spoke earnestly, Chong, you must have switched to practicing the local awakening techniques, right? After all, without the guidance of predecessors, the techniques in the Silk Book are impossible to master. These local awakening techniques are hardly profound, even with relentless effort, you'll never achieve true greatness. At best, you'll become a local expert in this region. If you ever venture beyond this place, you'll be overshadowed, a mere footnote among the true powerhouses of the world. So, why not cut your losses now, abandon the awakening path entirely, and live a peaceful, prosperous life here? You'll be protected and cared for. What's wrong with that? Qin Ming's anger flared. His path, his life, what right did anyone have to dictate it? He demanded, if I undergo awakening, whether through the Silk Book's methods or any other awakening techniques, you'll be ordered to stop me, to attack me, is that right? Kui Hong remained silent. My parents' decision. Qin Ming stared into the dark desert, a profound sense of helplessness mingling with his boundless fury. The past hardships had forced him to confront death directly, even to the point of having died once already. Yet he had never felt fear or dread. But this blade of familial betrayal and human nature had pierced his defenses. Though the fragmented, incomplete, and missing scenes flashed before him, Qin Ming vaguely understood something from the character, abandon. Whether he was a discarded pawn or a mere chess piece, the realization made his breath come in ragged gasps. He couldn't reconcile himself to this truth. He was certain he had not only never wronged the Kui clan, but had even risked his life for them, surviving against all odds only to be exiled to this remote place. Flames danced before Qin Ming's eyes, blurring visions flickering across his mind. He grew increasingly convinced that many in the Kui clan had known in advance what would happen that night. Were they pushing me forward to bear the brunt of the disaster? He couldn't understand why, even after he had fallen to such depths, the Kui clan, specifically his parents, would still resort to such measures. What he had once dismissed as illusion was gradually solidifying into reality. How desperate he must have been in the past to believe life was all a false, a patchwork of lies, because the foundations of his faith had crumbled. Kui Hong remained silent, stepping forward. Though regret lingered in his heart, he prepared to strike. Can you tell me everything I've been through? Qin Ming suddenly asked, pointing to his head. You must have witnessed that night firsthand. The feather-robed youth shattered my skull in 3 places, and I've forgotten so much. If you're going to kill me, at least let me understand why. What? Kui Hong's expression shifted dramatically, his face twisting with shock, self-reproach, and guilt. I didn't realize you'd lost your memories. This is our fault. We should have arrived sooner. I'm so sorry, young master, Chong. His voice trembled with emotion as he continued, Chong, I came here not to kill you, but to dissolve your awakening methods. From now on, no one will target you. You can marry and raise a family here, free from conflict. What's the difference between that and killing me? I want to walk the awakening path, it's the future I chose for myself. What right do you have to sever it? Qin Ming's voice rose. I've completely forgotten my past, leaving only fragmented memories. What more could you possibly fear? How could this happen? An exclamation rang out from the rugged path at the edge of the desert as Li Qingyu, clad in a feathered robe, appeared. Beside her stood her maidservant, 2 golden armored guards, and Meng Xinghai, the new city lord of Kaisha City. The desert fell silent. Kui Hong didn't retreat, his gaze fixed on the youth before him. Realizing that the confrontation was inevitable, Qin Ming spoke, even the humblest families, my neighbors, ordinary couples, can raise their children with love and warmth, willing to give their lives to protect them. 1,000-year-old clan. From this moment forward, we have no further ties. Let us sever all connections. At that moment, a voice seemed to sigh within Qin Ming's heart, telling him it was all in the past. They were his parents, he shouldn't blame them anymore. It was right for him to make sacrifices. He should just leave and move on. But now, he shook his head, unable to find peace. I've already died once, Qin Ming shouted into the desert. From now on, I am no longer Kui Chong. The man who lives again is Qin Ming, and from this moment forward, I will live only for myself. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, Night Without Borders. Chapter 67, A Pig in the Palm. Author, Chen Dong. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. Chong, why don't you come back with me? There might still be a chance to resolve this, Kui Hong suggested. Upon hearing this, Qin Ming immediately retreated several steps backward. The dark desert seemed to swallow him whole, his silhouette vanishing into the darkness. How could he possibly return to the Kui clan? The 2 years since his memory loss had forced him to abandon his former thoughts and re-evaluate his past. Now, his perspective and judgment were completely different. He felt as though he had leapt off his original life trajectory, escaping a turbulent and dangerous river that had been dragging him forward. With a fresh start before him, he would never willingly step back into that current. Retreating further into the desert was Qin instinctive reaction. He absolutely couldn't allow himself to be dragged back into the quagmire of the Kui clan, otherwise, he would truly be in grave danger. Chong, why are you reacting like this? Why this expression? Kui Hong sighed, seeing Qin defensive posture and constant retreat. It was clear that the Kui Chong before him now regarded the Kui clan as a monstrous threat, unwilling to touch or associate with them. He had even declared that he would live only for himself. Are you trying to force me? Qin asked, drawing his jade iron sword. Even if I'm no match for you, I won't surrender without a fight. Kui Hong was surprised. The sword stance Qin had adopted exuded the aura of a true master of the sword Dao, far exceeding his expectations. He even had the fleeting impression that, regardless of the youth's actual strength, he already possessed the bearing of a sword Dao grandmaster. On the rugged mountain path, Meng Xinghai, concealed in the mist, showed a hint of astonishment as he watched from afar. How could a mere 16 or 17-year-old boy possess such profound mastery of the sword Dao? Kui Hong refrained from using his heavenly light, instead extending his long arm and casually striking forward. He wanted to test whether Qin truly had any real skill in the sword Dao. The jade iron sword, painted with mineral pigments, was slightly shorter than Qin arm, including the hilt. In his hands, it unleashed a sword flash accompanied by the roar of wind and thunder, like a dark rainstorm suddenly illuminated by a blinding bolt of lightning tearing through the night sky. With a sharp rip, a corner of Kui Hong's robe was severed and fluttered to the yellow sand below, leaving him momentarily stunned. Though he had restrained his heavenly light and casually extended his hand to suppress himself, fearing he might harm the young master before him, the young master should have been utterly incapable of landing a blow. What level of existence was he? How could a mere youth who had barely stepped into the awakening realm, nascent realm, sever a corner of his sleeve? No one would believe such a tale. Kui Hong stared with a complex expression at the tall figure now completely shrouded in darkness. In the distance, Meng Xinghai also wore a look of astonishment, murmuring, the Kui clan's talents are truly extraordinary. I thought I was mistaken, but this young man's pure swordsmanship alone qualifies him as a master. His mastery of the sword Dao is profound. Li Qingyu was surprised. She knew Meng Xinghai himself was a sword wielder, so such praise from him meant the youth's skill was truly exceptional. She recalled that night when Qin single-handedly leveled Golden Rooster Ridge, slaying 2/4 stage of Awakener bandits. Afterward, veteran mountain rangers analyzed the scene and concluded that at least 3 assailants had been involved, each specializing in sword, spear, and arrow. Li Qingyu now realized that the word, specializing, hardly captured the true depth of Qin mastery of the sword Dao. Chong, you've truly surprised me, Kui Hong said. Come back with me and let's see what we can do. See what we can do. Qin would never entrust his fate to someone else's goodwill. The Kui clan could sever his path to rebirth with a mere thought. Why risk it? He retorted, you've already admitted that even mastering the Silk Book's techniques would be useless. How much less would my meager achievements in the sword Dao matter? I won't go with you. Kui Hong fell silent, deciding to subdue Qin first. Lingering in this dark desert made him uneasy, he didn't want to tempt fate and attract any legends. Stop! Meng Xinghai shouted, his figure flashing across the desert to intercept. Li Qingyu, graceful as a celestial maiden, glided across the sand to join him. Kui Hong had sensed their approach long ago. Unwilling to complicate matters, he swiftly reached out to seize Qin. But as Meng Xinghai moved to block him, he suddenly withdrew his hand, his expression shifting strangely as he retreated several steps. You promised to repay your debt to me. Qin hissed urgently in the darkness. I'm about to be crippled. Why aren't you helping me? Bang! Kui Hong's right hand throbbed with excruciating pain, as if he had been kicked by a savage dragon. Stumbling backward through the yellow sand, he retreated over 10 meters. Hiss! He sucked in a mouthful of cold, dusty air. His right hand felt numb with pain, the sensation eerily similar to when he had been kicked by a donkey as a child. He lowered his head to examine his hand. Thanks to his heightened senses, he could see clearly even in the desert's darkness at close range. His palm was stamped with a crimson mark, so red it looked like it was about to bleed. Upon closer inspection, Kui Hong realized it was a hoofprint. That hand is surprisingly tough, a muffled voice chuckled from the darkness. How do you humans describe this situation? Something about a rock in a latrine, right? Qin remained silent, offering no comment. After all, Kui Hong had once saved his life, regardless of whether it was his duty or not. Kui Hong stared into the darkness and saw Qin right hand cradling a miniature wild boar, slightly longer than a palm. He had clearly been kicked by a pig. Li Qingyu, using her special pupil technique, gazed at the small mountain pig and sensed an overwhelming danger, as if a colossal beast loomed within the night mist. The mountain lord of Black-White Mountain? Meng Xinghai asked. Kui Hong's expression shifted dramatically. It was the mountain lord himself, the very being he had come to seek help from, now transformed into a miniature pig resting in his palm. The mountain pig sighed, alas, lost pig here. I'm the former mountain lord. You must have met the new one, immeasurably profound, isn't he? He's already taken my place, though he's kept it quiet, without making a fuss. Qinming stood his ground, conversing with Kui Hong, his confidence bolstered by the presence of the mountain pig. Last night, despite the pig's thunderous snoring, it had spoken to him, since we've crossed paths, I'll repay a debt along the way, settling a karmic debt from these mountains. Qinming still didn't know what debt the pig intended to repay, but its ability to change size and speak human language suggested formidable power. Without the mountain pig, Qinming would have had to resort to desperate measures, offending this terrifying desert with extreme methods. Mountain Lord, are you interfering in the affairs of the Kui clan? Kui Hong demanded. The old mountain pig chuckled. How dare I? The Kui clan, a 1,000-year-old lineage whose name shakes the boundless, dark world, striking fear into all creatures. I wouldn't presume to overreach myself. I merely promised to protect him on this journey. Kui Hong's expression flickered between dark and uncertain. He knew he was no match for the mountain lord. Moreover, these deposed rulers were the most dangerous to provoke. If he refused to show respect and angered it, it would stop at nothing. Having already lost its territory, it could simply plunge into the endless darkness afterward, making pursuit nearly impossible. He nodded. Very well. Since the mountain lord has spoken, we'll wait until we've passed this stretch. Meng Xinghai turned to Kui Hong. Brother of the Kui clan, what's your name? How could you bear to cripple such a prodigy of the sword Dao? If you don't want him, name your price and let me take him. Kui Hong quickly learned Meng Xinghai's identity. No wonder he spoke with such confidence, he too hailed from a 1,000-year-old aristocratic clan. Moreover, Kui Hong recognized the young woman beside him, Li Qingyu. He remembered her vividly. Years ago, when scions of the great clans had gathered in a colossal city to await the arrival of outsiders seeking disciples, Li Qingyu had ultimately been chosen by a renowned figure. Meng Xinghai's expression shifted. Having now identified Qinming, he recalled fragments of the incidents from 2 years ago. He was surprised to encounter Kui Chong here. I've heard whispers, Meng Xinghai said. If the Kui clan were to crush him in this remote place, it would tarnish your reputation for benevolence and gratitude. That wouldn't be wise. At the same time, he pointed at Li Qingyu and said, the Kui clan can't silence both of us, can they? After all, we both saw everything. Kui Hong's expression darkened. A bloody conflict, let alone war, within 1,000-year-old clans. What was he thinking? That would cause catastrophic consequences. In Qinming's fragmented memories, scattered threads were now beginning to connect. He quickly declared, from this day forward, even if it means death, I will never again claim to be a member of the Kui clan. I will never set foot in your circles again. From now on, I am simply Qinming. 2 years ago, he had been unable to comprehend certain truths. But now, even the faintest clues sparked his awareness. Qinming's greatest desire now was to reach the 4th stage of awakening as soon as possible, to pierce through the fog of mystery, to understand his past experiences without relying on others' accounts. Kui Hong retorted, when has the Kui clan ever been ungrateful? I have a feeling that within a few years, the young master will be invited back. Hearing these words, Qinming felt no desire to respond. Meng Xinghai interjected, in that case, you should send a messenger bird back to consult with the Kui clan. It would damage the reputation of a 1,000-year-old clan if word of your actions got out. He then turned to Qinming and said, I've heard that this region produced an extraordinary sword Dao prodigy over 2 centuries ago. Sadly, lacking a suitable awakening techniques in his youth, he wasted half his life. Despite mastering Grandmaster-level sword techniques, that senior ultimately failed to transcend mortality. Observing your aura in the sword Dao, I sense within you the heaven-severing sword intent of that very senior. Qinming bowed respectfully, thanking him for speaking on his behalf, and then revealed, he was my master. An instant silence fell over the scene. Meng Xinghai thought, this young man's words are as wild as a savage dragon, utterly unreliable. From what he knew, the Sword Dao Grandmaster had indeed retreated into seclusion after his vital energy waned, vanishing from public life. But Meng Xinghai assumed the man couldn't have lived much longer. Li Qingyu also wore a peculiar expression as she gazed at her former friend. How could he have changed so drastically in just 2 years? Chong, don't speak recklessly, Kui Hong cautioned. Though my master lost an arm in his youth, after creating the heaven-severing sword intent, he personally executed all his rivals, purging all worldly attachments from his heart. In his later years, while wandering the mountains, he stumbled upon a rare spiritual substance that extended his lifespan, allowing him to embark on the path of rebirth anew. He has indeed lived to this day, though he is now nearing the end of his life once more. Qinming stated calmly, recounting the true events he had witnessed in the sword manual. He even reproduced many of the one-armed elder's words and described his appearance. Old Mountain Pig was the first to react, stunned. Could it really be him? Meng Xinghai was also lost in thought, recalling tales of ancient sages. When faced with no path forward or despair in their twilight years, some would venture deep into mountains and marshes seeking fortune. Could this Sword Dao Grandmaster have stumbled upon such a miraculous encounter? Kui Hong was equally taken aback. If true, a Sword Dao Grandmaster over 2 centuries old would be no ordinary figure. Qinming couldn't care less whether they believed him. Given his dire situation, he'd seize any opportunity to bluff, with nothing to lose. Shall we call it a day? Old Mountain Pig suggested, leaping from Qinming's hand to the ground and urging him to move on. Kui Hong watched silently, intending to retrieve the young master after they cleared this stretch of the desert. But in the next instant, his composure shattered. He caught a familiar, pungent stench. Meng Xinghai and Li Qingyu instantly frowned, held their breath, and retreated. From the depths of the darkness, Qinming witnessed the palm-sized pig, now on the ground, unleash a massive stream of urine, transforming a patch of yellow sand into a large puddle. Rumble. The entire desert erupted once more, black mist churning violently. Let's go. What are you waiting for? I'll escort you out, Old Mountain Pig called back, gesturing with its snout for Qinming to follow. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, Night Without Borders. Chapter 68, Returning to the World of Daylight. Author, Chen Dong. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. The desert was offended once more, and the entire world changed color. Sand and stones flew through the air, and the night mist surged like crashing waves, slamming against the towering mountains that flanked the rugged path. Qinming stared in disbelief. What is the Mountain Lord doing? With such immense power, why can't he just take the normal route? This urine smells far too pungent and irritating. At that moment, Meng Xinghai used a secret technique to transmit a message to him. In a few days, come to Kaisha City to discuss the situation. The Kui clan, a 1,000-year-old family, still values its reputation. If they change their minds and don't try to bury you in this remote place, the problem might not be too severe. Qinming turned back amidst the sandstorm to express his gratitude to the new city lord. Meng Xinghai, Li Qingyu, and Kui Hong swiftly fled the desert, its environment far too harsh to endure. On the rugged path in the distance, Xu Sheng's face darkened. What's happening again today? It's even worse than yesterday. He desperately wanted to quit. Even as an experienced traveling merchant, he felt the danger was overwhelming. This profession had no future. Not just his team, but even he himself was so terrified he wanted to scream. Everyone, don't panic. This has nothing to do with us. We've always revered the desert. Xu Sheng began, but before he could finish, he felt a woman cling to his back, sobbing. Her sharp nails scraped incessantly against his neck. On the dark path, nothing was visible. The woman's wailing was utterly chilling. Woo. I saw so many dark shadows. I'm so scared. Xu Sheng's composure crumbled. Aren't you a mutant creature? What are you afraid of? He thought. Now he was truly terrified. The woman's furry, slender hands gripped him with nails like iron hooks, impossible to pry loose. He made up his mind. If they reached Kaisha City safely this time, he would immediately change careers and never be a traveling merchant again. If you keep offending the desert like this, won't you make enemies? Qinming said, his mouth full of sand. Battling the fierce wind and swirling sand, he quickly pulled out a gray robe to cover his head and face. Don't worry, the mountain pig replied, flicking its tiny tail as it nimbly trotted across the yellow sand. I'm a member of the esoteric sect. I carry a desert sacrifice ritual artifact, which allows me to pass through safely. Qinming froze. This little pig is a member of the esoteric, mysterious or secret sect. We don't really need to be this reckless, do we? He couldn't help but ask. The old mountain pig explained, we need to guard against the white wolf secretly tracking us. In the desert, whoever has performed a blood sacrifice ritual is the one who fears the most. If it dares to show its face, we'll scare it to death. Qinming now understood the situation. The white wolf was the new mountain lord, and it had performed a mysterious ritual in the mountains, worshipping the beast god's tomb, which had greatly enhanced its cultivation. The beast god is dead. Qinming asked, his expression shifting. The mini mountain pig replied, it was just a powerful creature. Who knows if it's really dead? That place might just be its pelt tomb, which the white-eyed wolf found. Otherwise, with its previous cultivation level, it would have been eating my farts back there. Now look at me, running for my life. Ah, how the wheel turns. My luck hasn't been good these past 2 years. Something's nearby. Qinming warned, drawing his jade iron sword and holding it defensively before him. Yellow sand churned across the desolate plains, thick fog roiled, and shadowy figures flickered in the distance. More than a dozen teams carrying eerie, emerald green flames approached, casting a ghastly, verdant glow across the landscape. The mountain pig remained calm. Don't worry. What's strange becomes familiar, and what's strange defeats itself. I carry the desert sacrifice ritual artifact, they can't harm us. The green flames flickered wildly as colossal beasts, tens of meters tall, strode past, their putrid stench like rotting flesh mingled with the acrid smell of burning corpses. Qinming remained vigilant, gradually adjusting to the spectacle. Though the bizarre phenomena swirled around them, none attacked. He simply averted his gaze. You're from an esoteric sect, aren't you? I thought members of such sects revered the desert, believing it to be a realm connected to the divine spirit. The old mountain pig scoffed. There's more than one esoteric sect. Some revere the divine spirit, worshipping it and seeking to harness its power through meditation. Others are far more ambitious, aiming to subdue these phenomena, or realms, claiming them for themselves and ascending to godhood. Qinming was astonished, gaining a new understanding of both the esoteric sects and the desert. The old mountain pig must have joined one of the more ambitious sects, judging by his attitude. I'm not going any further, old mountain pig grumbled, his mouth full of sand. Pitch your tent here. I need a nap. By the way, have you really met the one-armed sword Dao Grandmaster? Qinming replied, yes, I have. He transmitted his sword techniques to me through the dense fog, like a spiritual resonance, almost like a dream. Old mountain pig's expression turned grave. Could he have taken the path of the outsiders? Have you met my master too? Qinming asked. My father did. He personally witnessed him cleave the then mountain lord in two with a single strike. The sword's flash tore through the night, severing the torrential rain. It was terrifying. After a moment, Qinming asked, you mentioned repaying a debt of gratitude and settling a karmic debt in the mountains. How come I don't remember ever saving you? Old mountain pig gritted his teeth. That white wolf was truly venomous and ruthless. After severely wounding me, he didn't kill me outright. Instead, he shattered my spirit, reducing me from a dignified mountain lord to a mere beast driven by instinct. He wanted me to become prey for other predators in the mountains, to die a miserable death. I was lost then, with only brief moments of clarity each day. Most of the time, I was just an ordinary wild boar, truly a pig fallen into the plains, bullied by dogs. I even remember you trying to shoot me with your bow and arrows back then, you little brat. Qinming was certain now. This was indeed the great mountain boar, the massive creature weighing over 1,500 pounds that had once relentlessly pursued him. Fortunately, this old boar had a backup plan. As the saying goes, a cunning boar has 3 dens. I'd prepared some extremely rare spiritual substance and hidden it in my second den, you know, the one beneath the blood snake nest. After you cleared out the snakes, my primal beast form was nearby, regaining a sliver of consciousness. I charged in, recovered most of my vital energy, and escaped the mountains. Though you didn't intentionally save me, you inadvertently gave me a chance to turn things around. Since we've crossed paths again, let's settle this karmic debt. Qinming never imagined that beneath the blood snake nest, instead of the third mutation blood snakes old Lu had suspected, there would be a boar's den. Soon, earth-shattering snores erupted from the tent buried under the yellow sand. Though it looked like a miniature pig, the noise it made was deafening. Even the dark shadows lurking nearby seemed unable to bear it, retreating into the distance. Of course, it was also possible that the old mountain pig's terrifyingly yang dominant blood energy, which circulated through its body as it slept, was obscuring those ominous signs. Its nap stretched straight into the next day. The desert had returned to calm, the strange omens and thick fog completely dissipated, leaving only absolute darkness. Let's go. The creature said, leading the way. Qinming, however, hesitated to leave immediately, fearing Kui Hong might be waiting outside to ambush him. We'll stick to the desert's edge, the old mountain pig said, equally wary. I don't want to risk the white wolf still hunting me. Occasionally, the creature would venture onto the rugged mountain paths, mimicking the calls of peculiar birds. Soon, Qinming saw several talking sparrows fly from the nearby mountains to report to it. Envious, Qinming asked the old mountain pig if it could do him a favor and send a talking sparrow to Kaisha City, specifically to the city lord's mansion. Kui Hong had searched every inch of the road without finding Qinming, then immediately set off to find Kui Changyi, utterly exhausted. Ghost fire. Qinming whispered at the desert's edge, noticing a hazy patch in the distance. What a great place. That's a fire spring, usually hidden from view. It's only visible now because we're so close. Any further away, the desert's darkness would swallow everything, making it impossible to see. The old mountain pig was delighted. This desert oasis was the perfect hiding place, and it had no intention of leaving the desert just yet. Meng Xinghai comes from a 1,000-year-old clan. He's definitely more ruthless than Ling Shu. Since he wiped out Golden Rooster Ridge, this hideout probably isn't safe either. Let's abandon it and retreat early. Qinming had just approached the area when he overheard a group of men talking. This was another occasional hideout used by the Golden Bandits, usually only occupied by a few ordinary bandits. Let's head to Maple Leaf City. Meng Xinghai is too dangerous to provoke. Even the Golden Bandit's big shots don't want to cross him. Prepare to move out. The past 2 days have been filled with howling winds and ghostly shadows. Even though we're used to it, it still gives me the creeps. Count the men. 1, 2, 3. 10. The bandit leader panicked. This was just a temporary hideout, unlike Golden Rooster Ridge, which housed a large force. Only 9 men were supposed to be guarding the place. How had an extra person appeared? 1, 2, 10. He counted again, refusing to believe it, and his hair stood on end. The other bandits panicked too, exchanging nervous glances. Something felt off about each other. They had just covered the fire spring with a stone slab, plunging the hideout into near total darkness. Run! They scattered in a frenzy. 5 days later, a talking sparrow flew back from Kaisha City, carrying a single page of parchment. Meng Xinghai, the new city lord of Kaisha City, informed Qinming that the Kui clan's attitude had softened. For the next few years, I cannot go to Qinghe City, where the Kui clan resides, nor should I travel to Qingxing City. I must not use the name Kui Chong, and I cannot claim to be a Kui clan scion for the time being. I may be able to return to the Kui clan after several years. Qinming studied the message. The words weren't the Kui clan's exact words but rather Meng Xinghai's interpretation, delivered as a subtle warning. What is Qingxing City? He pondered, and a hazy image of a smiling young woman surfaced in his mind, seemingly connected to that city. He rubbed his aching temples, dismissing the thought. He needed to undergo his 4th stage of awakening as soon as possible to fully recover his memories. Then everything would become clear. Qinming had originally planned to abandon Kaisha City and seek refuge in a more distant place. However, after sensing Meng Xinghai's goodwill, he began to believe that the city might actually be safer than he had thought. Qinming knew that Meng Xinghai's assistance wasn't likely motivated by any particular appreciation for his talent. After all, they had only just met, and Meng Xinghai had no reason to interfere in the Kui clan's internal affairs. Thank you, Li Qingyu, Qinming murmured, standing beside the fire spring in the desert, gazing at the dark night sky. Meanwhile, within the city lord's mansion in Kaisha City, Li Qingyu was conversing with Meng Xinghai, discussing Qinming. Given his current situation, those of us who know him well should avoid getting too close. Otherwise, his circumstances might worsen. After leaving the Kui clan, I suspect many of his so-called friends will avoid him like the plague, severing all ties and treating him like a stranger. Qinming stayed in the desert oasis for 11 days before finally preparing to depart for Kaisha City. Kui Hong had indeed wandered the desert outskirts with Kui Changyi for several days, hoping to see Qinming again, but they never managed to catch up with him. Take care, Qinming said to the old mountain pig, and may you one day reclaim your position as mountain lord of Blackwhite Mountain. Forget it, the old mountain pig replied, shaking his head with an air of enlightenment. I've seen through it all. Blackwhite Mountain can only be controlled by someone with earth-shattering power. After all, it once held all factions in its suffocating grip. Though it has collapsed, it's still not a place for ordinary beings to rule. Almost every mountain lord throughout history has met a tragic end. This place suits me just fine, the old mountain pig continued. I'll play the fool in plain sight while secretly plotting my revenge, lying low in this dark desert where no one can touch me. A gentleman's vengeance may take 100 years, but it will come. Qinming set out on his journey. 2 days later, as he approached Kaisha City, he gazed at its radiant glow from afar. The city's fire spring must be of high grade, he surmised, capable of illuminating the night as brightly as day. As he approached the city, Qinming's emotions surged. Though it was his first time here, he felt no sense of unfamiliarity. Vague images surfaced in his mind, fragments of his past experiences in Qinghe Great City. After 2 years of seclusion in a dark, remote place, he was finally returning to a city with daylight. Qinming's thoughts raced. In recent days, the shattered fragments of his memories had been gradually reassembling, and he was slowly recalling people and events. When I was still Kui Chong, I had many old friends in Qinghe City. I knew important members of numerous great clans and even befriended some outsiders. I interacted with direct descendants of several thousand-year-old aristocratic families. I was surrounded by friends, with acquaintances everywhere. He sighed. Now, returning to the world of daylight, is Qinming, how many of his former acquaintances would still recognize him? How many would even acknowledge him? Perhaps even if they met, they would no longer recognize each other. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, Night Without Borders. Chapter 69, Unwavering Anticipation. Author, Chen Dong. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. I am no longer Kui Chong. That's all in the past. Qinming withdrew his thoughts from the shattered fragments of his past, his eyes blazing with a fireglow-like brilliance, his entire being radiating vitality. He was now Qinming, and there was no turning back. He had to sever ties where necessary, let go of what needed to be abandoned, and accept that not all old acquaintances would be willing to recognize him upon reunion. In the past, Qichong had basked in the reflected glory of his noble clan's terrifying thousand-years-old legacy. Now, he would rely solely on himself, advancing step by step. The heights he could reach through his own efforts would be the true measure of his inner radiance. There must be a reason this place was chosen for city construction, Qinming observed. The snow in the forest barely reached his knees, remarkably mild, considering the waist-deep blizzards that had ravaged Black and White Mountain in recent years. Behind Kaisha City stood majestic mountains, their rugged peaks teeming with dangerous aberrants, a clear indication of abundant spiritual substance. To the city's front stretched vast plains, dotted with fields of crops. A great river flowed beyond the walls, connecting to distant lands. With the spring thaw, large ships would soon ply its waters, promising robust trade and transportation. The towering city walls, constructed from cyan stone, loomed ahead, their massive gatehouse guarded by armored soldiers wielding long halberds that gleamed with a chilling light. A steady stream of people and carriages flowed through the gates, creating a bustling scene. Qinming entered the city without much scrutiny. The city was remarkably open, a hub for merchants traveling from all directions. The streets, paved with cyan flagstones, were meticulously cleared of snow, leaving them spotless. As soon as he stepped into Kaisha City, a cacophony of sounds assailed his ears, far more vibrant than the atmosphere of Yintang, Silvervine Town. The area teemed with people, jostling shoulder to shoulder. Qinming walked along the bustling main street, his gaze drifting over the dazzling array of goods displayed in the shops lining both sides of the road. Occasionally, he would pause to admire the wares. Child, do you dream of becoming a renowned expert in the eternal night world? That goal might be a bit too ambitious for now. How about joining a sect? Becoming a member of the esoteric sect? Being chosen by an outsider? Or perhaps studying at one of the advanced academies in the giant cities? Many golden paths lie before you, but you must start preparing now. Come, hurry into the shop and have your mother buy you a cultivation manual. Not only the children and teenagers, but even Qinming was tempted to enter the old bookstore, its shelves overflowing with books. He was immediately drawn to a volume titled, Great Sun Contemplation Technique, a name that carried significant weight. Apologies, sir, the shopkeeper said, but this is a rare secret manual, even more precious than advanced intent chi cultivation techniques. It's also incredibly difficult to master. The prerequisite for learning it is mastering the star fire blazing plains meditation technique. Please come this way, you'll need to start with the first chapter of Star Fire Blazing Plains Meditation. Qinming quickly waved his hand and turned to leave. The shop was filled with newly printed books that reeked of ink, all low-level beginner techniques. There was no chance of finding ancient secret manuals containing the lifeblood of past masters here. He realized he was looking in the wrong place. Perhaps there were established brand bookstores that specialized in rare books. However, this wasn't what he needed most. What he truly wanted was spiritual substance. He yearned for his fourth awakening, desperate to recover his memories and finally unravel the mysteries of his past. Qinming discovered that there were indeed merchants selling spiritual substances. A magnificent 5-story building stood in the heart of the city's most prosperous district, where every inch of land was worth its weight in gold. However, he quickly exited after entering. Simply inquiring about spiritual substances for a first awakening would have cost him more than half of his accumulated day gold. As for spiritual substances for a fourth awakening, they were completely out of the question. Moreover, according to the established brand merchant, higher-tier spiritual substances were almost always out of stock, unavailable even with day gold. Qinming wandered through Kaisha City, gradually familiarizing himself with its layout. The city boasted a fourth-tier fire spring, its crimson, glowing liquid flowing ceaselessly even in winter, gurgling and surging through the city's streets. In addition, several first- and second-tier fire springs were scattered throughout the city, enhancing its overall luminosity. Qinming deliberately sought out crowded areas, actively joining the bustle. To truly understand a city, these were the places to be. Young master, take care. Come back early next time. Young master, please come upstairs. Qinming suddenly stopped in his tracks. Where had he come to? The street was dominated by men, and the pavilions lining it echoed with the melodious strains of silk and bamboo instruments. Brother Qin. I never expected to see you here. Someone shouted. Instantly, many heads turned in Qinming's direction. For the first time in his life, he felt utterly disheveled and wanted to hide his face and flee. He recognized this place now, it was undoubtedly Old Wu's favorite haunt for squandering his fortune. And there was Wu Zheng, Old Wu's grandson, calling out to him in public. Brother Qin. Meeting an old friend in a foreign land is such good fortune. I'm so glad you're safe and finally made it to Kaisha City, the 17-year-old Wu Zheng said with a beaming smile, rushing over with unrestrained enthusiasm. What could have happened to me? The man that day was just an old acquaintance, Qinming replied, his expression turning peculiar. He couldn't help but wonder if family talents were truly hereditary. He didn't know if Wu Zheng would inherit the dual mastery of spear and arrow, but in terms of carefree charm, he seemed to rival his grandfather, Old Wu. After all, he'd only just arrived in Kaisha City and already knew his way to this notorious street. Didn't you come here to broaden your horizons? Qin Ming advised. Money should be spent wisely. Focusing on improving your strength is what truly matters. Wu Zheng shook his head. Brother Qin, you're misunderstanding. I'm just here to listen to the music, nothing more. Seeing Qin Ming's skeptical expression, Wu Zheng grew anxious. I'm telling the truth. Many experts who hunt mutated creatures outside the city come here afterward to drink and listen to music. They discuss the terrifying mutant creatures in the mountains and how to hunt them for spiritual substance. I'm here to gather valuable information. Is that the truth? Qin Ming perked up. If you don't believe me, ask Brother Shu later, Wu Zheng said. You know, Shu Sheng, the traveling merchant who brought us to Kaisha City. He's changed his profession and decided to become a free spiritual hunter. He was nearly scared to death by that female mutated creature in the group during the last expedition. Qin Ming had initially tried to dissuade Wu Zheng from lingering in such places, but within moments, he found himself climbing the steps of the Drunken Cloud Zui Sha pavilion alongside him. The pavilion was indeed a place for drinking and listening to zither music. Fragrant mist curled through the air as a beautiful woman played behind a beaded curtain, her notes tinkling like jade pendants. The spacious hall was filled with tables, each occupied by awakeners, who drank and chatted animatedly. It was unclear when, but this pavilion had become a hub for them to exchange information. It left the owner of Drunken Cloud Pavilion rather helpless, though as long as business was good, that was all that mattered. Qin Ming and Wu Zheng found a table and sat down, immediately overhearing various conversation. Have you heard? A sixth mutation mountain monster has emerged on Kaisha Mountain. Its true form is unknown, but its strength far exceeds its rank, it's likely a spiritual creature. Anyone want to team up and hunt it? Are you trying to get killed? Spiritual creatures are typically a tier above their mutation level, almost as strong as 7th mutation beings. Qin Ming listened intently, feeling his trip had been worthwhile. The conversations here allowed him to quickly grasp the situation in the mountains. Brother Qin, I'm glad you're safe. So, none of my team died on our last trip, we all made it to Kaisha City safely. Haha. Shu Sheng arrived, greeting Qin Ming warmly. Brother Shu, your neck. Qin Ming noticed the healed scratch marks on Shu Sheng's neck, remnants of an attack from over 10 days ago. Shu Sheng took a swig of wine and sighed. Don't even mention it. The descendants of high-tier aberrants are allowed into Kaisha City for training, with the high-ranking figure's approval. But this one was pathetically timid, she'd cling to people and squeeze their necks at the slightest disturbance. And because she'd undergone multiple awakening, I couldn't fight back. She choked me unconscious once. I'm done being a traveling merchant, I'm changing careers. Qin Ming clinked glasses with him. Changing careers sounds wise. Otherwise, walking these dark roads every night, something bad might happen eventually. Shu Sheng nodded. Exactly. Let me tell you, some of the old traveling merchants might not even be human anymore. They could have been replaced by some unknown creature ages ago. Our profession is full of legends, and I've wanted to quit for a long time. Wu Zheng raised his glass. A toast to Brother Shu's successful career change. From now on, I'll be following around Kaisha City with you. You're a top-tier expert, you've got to take me under your wing. Just then, a lively discussion about the Thunder Fire Alchemy Hall erupted at the next table, quickly drawing in more participants. Qin Ming's spirits lifted. These people seemed to be talking about a rare spiritual substance. In another half-month, the ice and snow will melt. When the spring thunder roars and all things revive, I wonder what will happen at the Thunder Fire Alchemy Hall on Kaisha Mountain this year. How many people will risk their lives to absorb the lightning into their bodies? Every year, some people die. The lucky ones are few and far between. Intrigued, Qin Ming immediately turned to Shu Sheng, who was from the area. Brother Shu, what's the situation with the Thunder Fire Alchemy Hall? Shu Sheng, a composed man in his early 30s, immediately cautioned him. Xiao Qin, are you interested? That place may offer great opportunities, but it's incredibly dangerous. Awakeners die there every year. I advise you to stay calm. He explained that only a handful of people ever manage to seize the opportunities there, relying entirely on luck. Even seeing one successful person emerge every few years was considered fortunate. Qin Ming nodded. I just heard about it today and was curious to learn more. If it's truly that dangerous, I definitely won't go near it. Brother Shu, tell us more. Wu Zheng urged. Alright, let me explain in detail. The Thunder Fire Alchemy Hall is located on Kaisha Mountain outside the city. It's said to be at least 1,000 years old, a unique structure, with roof tiles mainly made of copper, and also mixed with some rare metals into its construction. During thunderstorms, a spectacular phenomenon occurs at the Bronze Hall. Lightning bolts and fireballs surge across its surface, arcs of lightning intertwine, creating an extraordinarily brilliant display. When lightning strikes, it carries fragments of heavenly light down with it. Spring thunder is particularly special, imbued with the vital energy of all things awakening. As lightning and heavenly light intertwine, they give birth to a unique spiritual substance. That's why, every spring when the first thunderclap echoes, countless awakeners flock to the Thunder Fire Alchemy Hall, hoping to absorb this mixture of lightning and heavenly light. They seek to undergo a violent transformation, an awakening that can propel them to new heights. Qinming listened intently, his interest growing with each word. Xuanhuan warned, the Bronze Hall weakens the lightning considerably, reducing its intensity to a fraction of its original power. But the heavenly light remains the true danger. How many can survive being bathed in such otherworldly light? It's far more powerful than the heavenly light that falls on Spirit Link Mountain. Don't even think about trying it. Qinming felt that he absolutely had to go to this place. What made him worried was the raw power of thunder, a force of nature he couldn't even dream of confronting in his current state. Any attempt to touch it would instantly turn him to ash. But with the Thunder Fire Alchemy Hall, purifying, the lightning, what was there to fear? He could withstand the heavenly light, even if it were far stronger than the heavenly light contained within the special nodes of Black and White Mountain. He estimated it wouldn't be a problem. While others relied on luck to survive, Qinming could truly rely on his own strength to achieve a violent transformation and awakening on Kaisha Mountain. Counting the time, the first heavenly thunder of early spring will strike in just a few days. After a short rest, the moment will be upon us, Qinming thought, his anticipation burning fiercely. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Melworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, Night Without Borders. Chapter 70, Fragrance from the Depths of the Mountains to the City. Author, Chen Dong. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. The drunken cloud pavilion was bustling with activity, every table occupied. The Thunder Fire Alchemy Hall was the hottest topic, dominating conversations among the awakeners. After all, the time was drawing near, less than half a month away, it would be here in the blink of an eye. I can't wait for the ice and snow to melt, the spring thunder to roar, and the trees to sprout new buds. This year, I, Old Zhao, am going to give it my all. I'm already 72, even if I die there, I'll have no regrets. But if I succeed in the Thunder Fire Alchemy process, I'll be awakened with a second spring. Wishing Old Zhao a new life through awakening. May you bathe in the Thunder Fire Heavenly Light, achieve awakening, and have another son next year. You've got me tempted too. Life offers few chances for such gambles. In 30 years, when I'm 72, I'll also enter the Thunder Fire Alchemy Hall and give it a shot. Qinming noticed that the awakener in the Drunken Cloud Pavilion were mostly young and middle-aged, with a smaller number of elderly individuals. Those under 20, like him and Wu Zheng, were rare. Xu Sheng explained, most of the awakener here are self-taught. They haven't joined any local organizations, sects, or noble houses. Naturally, no ordinary individuals could become awakeners. Some were exceptionally skilled and commanded great influence, capable of rallying large groups to venture into the mountains to confront formidable mutant creatures. Qinming then asked a question that weighed heavily on his mind. Brother Xu, what level of awakening is required to enter the Thunder Fire Alchemy Hall? Clearly, those who had undergone 3 or 4 awakenings would have a significantly higher chance of surviving the heavenly light within the hall compared to those who had only experienced 1 or 2 awakenings. Anyone can enter, Xu Sheng explained. Generally, a first-time awakened only needs to endure 1 Thunder Fire Heavenly Light in the Bronze Hall. Those seeking a second awakening might withstand 2. But even if you endure the appropriate number of heavenly lights for your level, do you really think you'll walk out alive? Xu Sheng elaborated that even with external assistance, ropes pre-prepared to pull someone out at the critical moment, it made little difference. The only distinction lay in whether the corpse remained relatively intact or was completely charred beyond recognition. Either way, death was inevitable. Qinming pondered that if he were to enter the Thunder Fire Alchemy Hall, he would need to endure at least 4 bolts of heavenly light. Wu Zheng shook his head. Looks like I'll have to follow that old man's example and wait until I'm 70 or 80 to go. Xu Sheng chuckled. Good point. I'll wait until I'm 100. Qinming asked, if someone can withstand the Thunder Fire Heavenly Light, can they go again next time, and will it still be effective? Being able to enter once is already a great blessing from heaven. You want to go a second time? Now that you mention it, I do remember someone like that, Xu Sheng said. He paused, thinking back. Decades ago, a young man survived for 2 consecutive years. He got arrogant and went a 3rd time, overconfident that he could still withstand the Thunder Fire Heavenly Light. But he died tragically. Xu Sheng explained that the young man came from a powerful background and possessed an extraordinary physique. Most importantly, his awakening techniques originated from an incredibly rare and precious secret manual. When cultivated to a high level, his fists could unleash lightning. Wu Zheng was stunned, suddenly finding his own ancient tome of dual mastery in spear and arrow less impressive. Xu Sheng, equally envious, added, that's a rare secret manual that grants special abilities related to thunder and lightning. That's why he dared to go. How could an ordinary person possibly survive? Qin Ming's heart stirred at the mention of such legendary inheritances. It was no surprise that these treasures were guarded by formidable sects and mysterious organizations. Xu Sheng added, a century ago, there was an even more reckless individual who withstood 2 spring thunders. He then even attempted to withstand the violent summer thunder, only to crawl out of the bronze hall, screaming in agony. His head was scorched crimson by the heavenly light, and his brain was completely cooked. Brothers, something has happened in the mountains. A 5th mutation spiritual creature has emerged at Fire Cloud Huiyan Ridge. Boss Liang Yukong is leading a hunting party and has already severely wounded the beast. But they've suffered heavy losses and are on the verge of collapse. They've sent word that anyone who helps will share in the spoils. A middle-aged man burst into the drunken cloud pavilion, delivering the urgent news. Fire Cloud Huiyan Ridge. Isn't that the territory of the fire-scaled sparrow? Who would dare venture into such a dangerous place? They must be mad. I wasn't clear, it's the forests outside Fire Cloud Huiyan Ridge, within the hunting grounds. Let's go. With a flurry of movement, a group of awakeners surged out of the drunken cloud pavilion, their eyes gleaming with ambition. Since the mutant creature was already severely wounded, they could scout the situation first and join the fray if the opportunity arose. Xu Sheng remarked, Liang Yukong and his group have a good reputation. Should we join the fray? Qin Ming's eyes burned with excitement. Xiao Qin, you're too impatient, Xu Sheng chided. We haven't even found an inn or put down our luggage, and you're already rushing off to hunt in the deep mountains. Despite his words, Xu Sheng was intrigued. How many awakenings have you undergone? He asked. 2, Qin Ming replied, holding back the truth. Xu Sheng nodded. Alright, then. Stay back and observe from a distance. Gain some experience, but don't approach even if the mutant creature is dying. Wu Zheng's eyes also burned with envy, but he knew his limitations. Having just undergone his first awakening, he didn't even qualify to watch the spectacle. A large group of people exited the northern city gate, trudging through knee-deep snow as they swiftly entered the dense forest of the Great Mountain. Under the shallow night sky, Kaisha City blazed like daylight. As they entered the forest and adjusted to the darkness, some took a moment to adapt before picking up their pace. Outside Fire Cloud Huiyan Ridge, a massive azure bull radiated fiery light, its fury palpable. Severely wounded, it was now rampaging in a frenzy. So it's that old bull. I heard over a dozen awakeners have encountered it in the mountains recently, all trampled to death. Killing it today will rid us of a menace. Despite these words, no one moved to attack, each waiting for someone else to make the first move. This massive bull must weigh thousands of pounds. There's enough meat for everyone. Let's strike together, brothers. We don't want to give other monsters time to arrive. Someone shouted. With a thunderous crash, a tree that would take several men to encircle shattered as the azure bull charged through it. Its crimson eyes blazed as it gored another awakener with its horns. Truly a spiritual creature. It's taken over a dozen iron spears and still hasn't fallen. In fact, it's getting even more ferocious. Brothers, if you attack now, you can still get a share of the azure bull meat. But if you wait until it falls before joining in, you will not get any share. Liang Yukong shouted personally, his refined gold armor shattered and a deep gash torn across his arm by the bull's horn. The sight of the heavily wounded azure bull, teetering on the brink of collapse, broke the crowd's hesitation. Some hurled spears, others fired arrows, and skilled warriors attempted to close in. Thud. Qin Ming fired an arrow from afar, striking the azure bull's eye. Though its thick hide prevented deep penetration, the arrow pierced its vulnerable spot, nearly piercing the eyeball. The beast roared in agony, blood seeping into its eye. Attack now. Its left eye is blinded by blood, finish it off while you can. Remember, my brother Xiao Qin shot that arrow. Give him an extra cut of azure bull meat later. Xu Sheng shouted, charging forward. Thud. Finally, the massive bull's head crashed to the ground, severed by Liang Yukong himself. The thousands of catties' carcass slammed into the earth, shaking the forest floor and staining the snow crimson. Liang Yukong panted heavily, his snow-bright longsword gleaming menacingly, dripping with mutant creature blood. His shattered armor and disheveled hair added to his intimidating presence. Brothers, line up for the meat. Everyone gets a share, no fighting. Boss Liang's sword isn't just for mutant creatures. He roared. Boss Liang is truly generous. There's enough azure bull meat for everyone, no need to rush. Let's keep it orderly, brothers. The mountain forest instantly buzzed with excitement. Everyone was overjoyed, especially those who had arrived late and reaped rewards with minimal effort. Half an hour later, after the azure bull meat had been completely divided, someone couldn't resist roasting a piece on the spot. What's going on? The meat looks crystal clear, but after roasting, it feels like it lacks spiritual energy. What's going on? We've been tricked. All the azure bull's essence must be concentrated in its gallstone. Boss Liang must have secretly taken it. Where's Liang Yukong? He said he was feeling unwell, badly injured, and left half an hour ago. The forest erupted in chaos. Enraged, the crowd began searching for Liang Yukong. Everyone cursed him vehemently, even Qinming couldn't help but hurl a few insults. That day, a massive, furious mob stormed from the Great Mountain to the city, barging into Liang Yukong's residence only to find he had indeed fled, abandoning everything. The crowd cursed him relentlessly, especially the Awakeners who had been among the first to attack the Azure Bull. They were furious, having suffered severe injuries only for Boss Liang to abscond with the spiritual substance. As for those who had died in the mountains, their fate was even more tragic. Throughout the day, the people of Kaisha City buzzed with the news, many cursing Liang Yukong for his betrayal. His carefully cultivated reputation over the past 2 years had turned out to be nothing more than a setup for his final, devastating betrayal. As evening fell, the fire spring's natural dormancy, combined with the stone slabs covering the city, dimmed the entire city into a hazy twilight. Some areas plunged into complete darkness, this adjustable lighting system giving Kaisha City a distinct day-night cycle. Qinming and Wu Zheng checked into an inn. Qinming roasted his share of Azure Bull meat and invited Wu Zheng to share it. Not bad, but that Liang Yukong is such a snake. Qinming grumbled. Xuanhuan arrived with wine, sighing, for higher levels of transformations and awakenings, fathers betray sons, husbands turn against wives, anything can happen. We need to be more careful from now on. The next day, Qinming ventured back into the mountains, this time with Xuanhuan leading the expedition. Xuanhuan had learned from his master, an old traveling merchant, that a nest of white apes guarded several snow lotus plants deep within the mountains, each brimming with potent spiritual energy. Unfortunately, there's only one left, Xuanhuan lamented. The others have already matured and been eaten by the white apes. A spiritual substance capable of granting fourth awakening is incredibly valuable. The woman spoke, her eyes burning with fervor. She was a friend Xuanhuan had invited along. We'll trigger an avalanche to scare away the white apes. Then we'll quickly move in to harvest the snow lotus. These apes are notoriously tenacious. If we fail, retreat immediately without wasting time. However, after successfully driving off the white apes, a gray-robed figure with their face concealed appeared and snatched the crystal-clear snow lotus before they could react. The figure moved with impossible speed, vanishing into the great mountain. Xuanhuan's lungs nearly burst with rage. He had assembled this team the moment he received the intel, and victory had seemed within reach, only to have it stolen by this gray-robed figure. Qinming also choked down a mouthful of bitter blood. Even if they had secured the snow lotus, his share likely wouldn't have been enough for a fourth awakening. Still, having it snatched away like this made him want to smash the thief's face into a bloody mess with his hammer. You better not fall into my hands. I'll find out who you are. Even the woman couldn't contain her fury, spewing a string of curses along the way. This time, Qinming decided to follow local customs, joining them in cursing all the way from the Great Mountain to Kaisha City. He realized that making a living in Kaisha City wouldn't be easy. The Awakeners here were treacherous and ruthless. Sigh, ultimately, my strength isn't enough yet. I wish the spring thunder would roar soon. Within just 5 or 6 days, a remarkable phenomenon began to unfold outside the city. Earthlight steamed upward, instantly illuminating the dark mountain forests with a radiant, rain-like glow. The subterranean fire spring was awakening, its luminous vapor rising to nourish all living things. The accumulated snow began to melt slowly. Many nobles ventured out of the city to admire the spectacle. During this season, the mountain forests were particularly vibrant, offering unobstructed views of the snow-covered landscapes, their grandeur enhanced by the ethereal mist. Spring might arrive earlier this year, Xuanhuan observed. Brother Xu, let's go check out the Thunder Fire Alchemy Hall on Kaisha Mountain, Qinming suggested, wanting to scout the location in advance, as the spring thunder could strike at any moment. I'll come too, Wu Zheng chimed in, eager to see the bronze hall for himself. However, he soon regret his decision. What they witnessed was a lot of people. As the earthlight began to rise, not only did nobles arrive in carriages, but commoners also flocked out of the city with their children. Kaisha Mountain, a renowned scenic spot guarded by powerful experts, was virtually impenetrable by mutated creatures. The crowds were so dense that people were packed shoulder to shoulder. Even the nobles were helpless against the surging crowd. No one paid them any attention, and their strange beast carriages proved useless. Some noble ladies who dismounted and tried to walk were immediately squeezed, their screams piercing the air as their hairpins fell to the ground in disarray. Qinming was swept up the mountain by the human tide, unable to catch even a glimpse of the mountain's true beauty. He was simply carried along by the relentless flow. Before he could properly examine the structures at the summit, he was pushed forward again. At a critical moment, he finally managed to break free and enter the Thunder Fire Alchemy Hall. Wu Zheng wore a mournful expression. As someone who had experienced awakening, he had lost a shoe in the crowd. I didn't even get a good look at the Thunder Fire Alchemy Hall's exterior before being pushed inside. He complained bitterly. I didn't get a look either. Qinming replied, his senses sharpening as he stood within the hall. He carefully examined the walls, running his hand along their surfaces. Boom. He staggered, nearly collapsing to the ground as an overwhelming surge of emotions washed over him. Could this ancient hall truly resonate with his spirit? He was stunned. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel.